Okay, let's see if we're going live here and see if everything is working. Live here and see if. All right, showing up on mine. Somebody wants to give me a thumbs up or let me know I'm coming across here. I got it on my end. Cool. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Unannounced and unintended live broadcast of what's going on with shipping. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sal Mercogliano. I'm a former merchant mariner and a maritime historian at Campbell University. So if you hadn't caught the news, earlier this evening, Maersk had a ship inbound to the port of Savannah, the Maersk Surabaya. And Surabaya was a vessel that was on a route here that takes her a good chunk around from Europe to the United States. I'll share with you exactly what that route looks like. This is the route here that she is on. This is a pretty standard route for them. She was out of Charleston, inbound into Savannah. And this ship operates between the East Coast of the United States and then Northern Europe routes up to Le Havre, Antwerp, and Bremerhaven. Ship was inbound into Savannah when the ship went aground by her stern. And I'll pull it up right now. Now, I should mention to you right now the ship is underway. She's no longer stuck, but she did experience a grounding. And I want to talk a little bit about it and what we think may be the source of it. So I received notice about it while I was at my son's swim meet from a friend who's a pilot, not in Savannah, but a different port, not Charleston either, but a different port, and told me, go look at marine traffic right now that there's a ship that's stuck. Maersk Surabaya isn't a huge vessel, about an 8,000 TEU ship, and she was inbound into the port. The reason that this is a kind of really big significance is if you look at the parking lot of ships outside of Savannah right now, this could have been really bad if this ship had gotten permanently stuck. But fortunately, she didn't. She went aground by the stern. And what I want to pull up for you here is her track. And we can basically follow her track here on marine traffic. So I'm going to go ahead and animate it and let it run so that we can see it here. It'll take a second for it to kick up here. So I apologize while I get it up and running here. Let me go pull this up here. Sorry, sometimes you got to reboot it here with all these ships on here. Doing this live, so it's always a little bit of hit and miss when we do this. So she was inbound in. Here we go. Pull up her again one more time. Get her position live on the map. She was inbound in when we're not exactly sure what has caused this. The reports that I have seen is a potential of a line of storms came in, and that may have caused her to lose her way. Maybe some wind could have been an element in there. Let's go ahead and pull her track up here. There you go. So there's her track line. Let's see if we can get it to animate again this time. Oh, she's not going to want to do it. That's fine. We'll go ahead and just look at the track line that we had for her. She was inbound, and as always, when a ship like this comes into Savannah, and Savannah is unusual for a couple of reasons. Number one, the river borders on two states, so you have Georgia and South Carolina here. They would have taken on board a Savannah river pilot. Now, you always have a pilot on board for navigation of a vessel. You will never enter a port usually without pilotage on board, especially a large cargo vessel the size of Maersk Surabaya. Let's pull her up here. There we go. Let's go ahead and get that track up there, and we'll zoom in here and take a look at it. So there's a track line coming in, and where she went aground was right here in the turn of the channel. So it's a narrow little channel coming in. And you'll see from the outer buoy here, straight in, she's traveling at about 10 knots. That's what that yellow is. Green's a little bit faster. She comes into the turn here, and right where the red is, that is where she went up going aground at. As a matter of fact, if we zoom in here a little more, you'll see what happened. So the question becomes, did she get hit by a gust of wind? Was there some wind coming from the north that pushed her all of a sudden out of the channel and forced her in? Did she lose power coming in and drift in there? When she went aground, it was her stern first. So she was right across the channel with her bow sticking to the northwest, her stern toward the southeast. And this is a tight channel. This channel just finished dredging. Matter of fact, 2 months ago, there was a big event about the fact that the harbor and the channel has been dredged down to 50 feet. Now, while they're dredged down to 50 feet within the channel, once you go out that channel, you don't have a lot of margin here. And unfortunately, this vessel wound up losing it and going ashore here. And so that's a significant issue right there. When a ship loses control, there's not a lot of margin for error when the vessel loses that type of control. And when she loses control like that, it doesn't take much. If we go back here for a second, I'll take you to where she is at now. She's coming up onto the berth right now. And there's a whole issue that we have. This can be weather related. This could be a helm pilot issue. It could be a helm issue that caused the problem. We just don't know at this point. What we do know is that this is the second major grounding we've seen in a fairly short period of time. Remember, Ever Forward went aground coming out of Baltimore, and we still don't know what caused that grounding back in March. The investigation is still being taken place by the NTSB and the U.S. Coast Guard, but there's been no mention about what was the cause of that grounding. Was it because of, for example, mechanical error? Was it pilot error? And the reason I mentioned this, she's coming right up against the berth right now. So they're finishing bringing her in right at this time. So as they bring her into the berth here, talk about this for a second. The question about why and what caused this accident is really important. I have talked about this quite a bit. I just got off the phone with John Conrad over at G Captain. I was going to try to pull him on this evening, but he couldn't do it this evening. But we talked a little bit about this issue. And I think one of the big ones that we keep coming back to is why you need infrastructure in these ports, in particularly dredging. You need more dredging. You need suction dredgers. You need all the different hopper dredges. You need all different type of dredges available, not just to maintain the ports, but should that vessel have been stuck for a prolonged period of time, we would need to dredge it out. Is there enough dredges available to do that? Both either Army Corps of Engineers or commercial dredges that are available. The other issue you have here also is what is the type of dredges that you need to maintain the harbors and keep them going. Other thing, tugboats. One of the things that was very quick to happen here was the arrival of tugboats on the scene. I'm going to pull up here something for you. This is from my Twitter feed. I posted this earlier today, some images that I captured on here. I'll go ahead and pull it up for you. So I was snapshotting this as I was going along, so I apologize. I hadn't been able to upload them yet here. But one of the images that I caught as we were doing this, so this is her right here when she grounded. And you'll see how she caught right at the bend of the river right there. There she is with her stern up against the southern bank as she came in. grounded. Now, again, not exactly sure. Was it the wind that caught her? Did she lose propulsion? Did she lose steering? Not exactly clear yet. But one of the things that was abundantly clear was the amount of tugboats and resources available to assist. There was a myriad of tugs. I counted at 1.7 tugs that were on location down there helping the vessel. This is actually her grounded right here. Put it up for you. Let's see if we get their image there for you. There you go. That is her grounded. Coming in, you can see the stern of the vessel back there along the southern bank, the bow out across the length of the channel. Pretty good load on board. 8,000 boxes. I'll go through her route here in the second and talk a little bit about that, what's going on with that. But let's see if I can pull up the next image here. Yeah, this is the image that I caught with her coming out. That is all the tugs pulling her out when she came free. You can see right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 7 tugs available at the time to pull her out. And that's a substantial amount of tugboats and tugs in the area. I actually pulled up to each of the tugs that were in the area with her so that we can see. Let me pull this up here. And tugboats never get the just deserve just dessert they deserve. If you watch my video I posted today on the Spirit of Norfolk, I highlighted a couple of tugboats, and particularly the Fort Bragg and the Z1, that did a great job of stopping the spar Lyra from going into the Navy base there. You see kind of the same thing here. One of the things you'll see here is that myriad of tugs all around her: the Georgia, the Jack Moran, the Bulldog, the Point Clear, the Arkansas, the Edward J. Moran. And I think I captured all of them here. Yep, there you go. These are the workhorses of ports. Now, I would still argue that a lot of these tugs that we have in these ports are too small, not enough horsepower that we need. But fortunately, the Maersk Surabaya was not grounded in such a way that precluded her from getting off. Now, she grounded just before high tide, so that could have been really bad had the tide come out while she was up there. I think the high tide in the area, I see some of you checking on that, was right around 7 o'clock p.m. that evening. So the tide was getting ready to begin to come down. Sorry, Peanuts barking at my wife and son coming back in. These are the other tugs that were on the area there. Again, good tugs. Nothing wrong at all with these tugs. But as these vessels are getting bigger and larger, definitely need to be thinking about maybe investing in more harbor tugs to do this. Remember, this is not a state or local issue. It's not a Port of Savannah issue. This vessel would have blocked a shipping channel between two states. This is in federal waterways. And so this becomes a federal issue down the road, whether or not we have the necessary resources to prevent a vessel like this going aground. Again, a close call was had tonight in Savannah. I doubt this is going to register at all on the news among anybody. Probably just the 203 of you watching this with me are going to be the only ones who know anything at all about this. But to me, it's a fairly significant issue. Looking at Maersk Surabaya's schedule, here it is. I pulled it up from Maersk schedules. You can do this for all the shipping lines and follow your ships as much as you want. She arrived in Norfolk June 1, was out on June 2nd, to the port of Baltimore, then to Charleston. Then she is coming into Savannah tonight, as we see, and she's about ready to dock. We'll go back to where she is in a minute. She's supposed to leave tomorrow from there, although I'm not sure she's going to get off the berth tomorrow or have to be held because of the grounding. I'll be interested to see what the Coast Guard does regarding that. And then she heads to Newark and then across the Atlantic to Bremerhaven, Antwerp, Le Havre, and then starts that loop again back to the United States. This is a fairly common route for Maersk from Northern Europe over to East Coast of the United States. Good point made there. One of the things that she did ground by the stern, probably going to have to get her propeller, get the wheel checked, and get the rudder checked. Anytime you touch ground, especially for the classification society, you'll need to make sure that this is done. So if you want to leave some questions or ask some questions, please do so in the chat box there. I'll come back to them. We'll do a quick run through here in a minute. And again, not a lot information yet on this story, but one of the things trying to do is process that information out to you and get it to you so you can see what's going on. Let's see here. This is her still coming up along the berth here. We get an update here. Sometimes this doesn't update as fast as we need. And Savannah is important to note because she's one of the four big container ports in the United States. If you look right now at the United States, your four big ports. One is on the West Coast, LA Long Beach. Second is New York, New Jersey. Third is Savannah. And Savannah is the fastest growing port in the United States in terms of its size. Just made it onto the list of top 30 ports worldwide. She's a substantial port. A lot of investment had been going on in Savannah. She is ideal. If you look at this satellite image, you get the reason why Savannah is such a big port. Look at that laydown area here. All this area you're seeing right here, that is container space. That is all container space. Let me give you a little better image here. And when you get in here, Savannah is really well equipped right here. Substantial gantry cranes to work at a lot of nice laydown area right here beyond the port of Savannah. You'll see railway and railway sidings right there, access to the major highways. There's an airport nearby. There's just everything you want in this. And Savannah became really a key point. You actually pass the city of Savannah and you go upriver further into the interior than in the past. And that's because all that land had not been really developed and used. So you get a lot of laydown area there. We definitely see the port of Savannah developing. I'm going to zoom out here, just give you an idea here what we're talking about as you look at this general area here and all the vessels off. All right, so let me take a quick question, see if anybody is bigger. Is Savannah bigger than Seattle? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Seattle-Tacoma, which is a dual port now, Seattle-Tacoma combined, is the third largest port. Seattle-Tacoma is in the top 10. I have to think toward the bottom end of it. Really not that big. Let me go to the top of the list here, and I'm going to work my way down. So I apologize here real quick as I go through here. Just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions. A lot of highs is great for everybody to be here. Wonderful. Allowed. Is it possible these navigational control systems being hacked? Very unlikely for a couple of reasons. Let me be clear. So GPS can always be hacked. There's always that potential system to it. But ships don't have their helm hooked into their navigation system. They're two separate systems. You literally have somebody on the wheel, or more likely a handle, who's navigating the vessel. And even if your GPS is hacked going down the channel, you are operating at that point in that channel by visual markings. Plus your radar is independent of the GPS. So the potential of a hacking isn't very likely. Believe it or not, most of the navigation and machinery is pretty much hands-on still. We haven't got to the point of really integrating in systems. You have autopilots on vessels, but you haven't really seen in the shipping industry this idea of integrating navigation into the helm systems. Now, you do in some vessels, don't get me wrong. We're seeing the use of automated vessels and autonomous vessels, but in this case, very unlikely that you have a hack. Kyle, is this a competition between Maersk and Evergreen? Yes, it is. I think Maersk was feeling left out. They've got a little bit of an inferiority complex because they recently got knocked out as the #1 container liner by Mediterranean Shipping Company. So I think they wanted to get on the radar. No, I'm just kidding, of course. I don't think so. Listen, what these container companies do not want to do is be in the news. This is the least thing they want to do. And I think that's always it. How about spending some money and start dredging these shipping channels so they don't continue to see the stupidity? Pile 81. I agree entirely. We're not investing enough. Yes, I was very leery of the announcement that came out of Savannah announcing, hey, we've dredged down to 50 feet. Our job is complete. No, you never stop dredging. There's never a completed dredging project because the river is continually silting up. It's continually clogging up. And you can always increase the width of your channel. So yeah, I agree. Trying to find a new shortcut to the intermodal yard near Atlanta. Maybe so. Maybe trying to find that little bit of a route. How'd you get unstuck so quick? They made a decision to go ahead and try to pull her off on the high tide. And so it appears she didn't, if you look at the way groundings took place. So let's look at Ever Given. Ever Given was stuck by the bow and stern, and Ever Given ran fully aground, bow on, and then slid into the other bank. And so she was firmly aground about a third of the vessel, touching bottom. Ever Forward was completely aground. She was aground from bow to stern. This vessel was just slightly aground on her stern, and they were able to basically pull her off. Not sure that she's obviously navigating under her own power, so they may have been able to use the engines to kick out too and get her free. So it seems like they were able to get her off the embankment without a problem. Let's see. Keep going on here. Pull up the local weather for the past 6 hours in the air, and there's nothing indicating severe weather. So that's good. So obviously not a weather thing. There was a chance of storms going through the area. When I looked at Savannah, and usually when you do marine traffic, you could pull up these vessels and pull up the weather that they're currently experiencing as they are on location. And at the time, I did not see really anything to me that indicated whether or not there was a substantial problem with the weather. So, again, you can't rule it out until you have all the evidence there. And again, I wasn't watching this live in the area. Is the Ever Forward pilot still working? Again, I got to say, I am really disappointed and discouraged in the fact that the NTSB and the U.S. Coast Guard have not said anything about Ever Forward. I understand it's an investigation. I understand you don't want to say anything until information comes out. But if there is a systematic problem with piloting, with navigation, especially with these much larger vessels, I understand even though Maersk Surabaya is not a huge vessel, 8,000 TEUs, that's a big ship. She is a big vessel. If you look at the vessel, let's pull up her details here real quick and how big she is. She's a substantial size vessel. And the problem is we're so used to these vessels being tremendous in size that when we talk about a vessel that's not of the scale of basically these huge behemoth vessels, we kind of gloss them over. So right here, built in 2006, 16 years old. She's under the Danish flag, 8,400 TEUs, about 332 meters by 43 meters in length. She draws about 12 meters, so about 3.1 feet to a meter, I think it is. So again, you're talking about a ship over 1,000 feet long, so it's the size of an aircraft carrier, 43 meters wide, so over 120, 130 feet wide. And then you're talking about a ship that's drawing nearly 40 feet of water. So she is a substantially large vessel, as you can see here by some of the images of what she looks like. That's nothing to sneeze at, in my opinion. It's a pretty large, imposing vessel. Oh, I got something wrong on my spelling in the title. I apologize. Yeah, grounding. I will fix that. Sorry. It was quick throwing everything out. Thank you for catching that, Nancy. Let's see. Keep going there. See, Mark, you're right. 204. Actually, 262 people. So I appreciate that. Max Menorcan Mullet would have another story, man. As much as I love Camp Mandy down in Brunswick, Georgia, I think Camp Mandy would be happy not to have another story down there. So just like that, Sage with the issue about hitting the like button. Thanks, Sage. I appreciate you doing it. And let me be clear, Eric was top on this story. Eric beat me out of the gate on this. He was the first one to have it. David, will they dive on her in Savannah? Yeah, I think so. I think they'll take her out and dive on her either at the berth. Oh, actually, I don't think they'll do it at the berth. I think they'll pull her off the berth to free the berth up because they got so many ships waiting to come in. They'll probably take her out to a holding anchorage and do it out there. Plus, it'll be clearer water out at the anchorage as long as it's not rough to get her out. So we may see her schedule impacted. If you've never been in Savannah, one of the things that I'll say about the Savannah River is it's pretty brown water, pretty muddy. And having been a diver, I did a underwater archaeology program for my master's degree, and having to do diving in the Tar River in North Carolina, I will tell you that black water diving and diving in brown water is not something that anybody really wants to do. I don't think it's very enjoyable. Let's see. I'm sure the geniuses in the administration are already working on fixes this situation. Let me be clear something because I think you put up a good question here. This is an issue that the Maritime Administration should be tackling head on. We have a brand new administrator, Rear Admiral Ann Phillips, former Navy officer, who is now the MARAD administrator. MARAD oversees ports. And the way I say they oversee ports is they control part of the port infrastructure program. They dole out the money. And one of the things we need to be doing is the Maritime Administration, the Army Corps of Engineers, and everybody associated with maintaining our waterways needs to be involved in this issue, ensuring that our waterways are open. Let me be clear. If this vessel had gotten stuck, and if we'd gone through what we went through at Everforward, for example, this would have been cataclysmic for the shipment of goods into Savannah. That you would have to reroute these ships out of Savannah to other ports. That would have caused chaos in the supply chain system. I think we keep forgetting how thin and on razor edge some elements of our supply chain system is. This could easily happen going in and out of the port of LA and Long Beach. This can happen easily going into the port of New York, New Jersey, through the Kills. There are a lot of these narrow little bottlenecks that exist. And if you're not maintaining dredging, if you're not keeping up sufficient dredge capacity, if you don't have adequate tugs, then you are just asking for these problems. Fireboats. God, I'm on this thing all the time with fireboats. You need fireboats, in all these major ports, because when a fire happens on these ships, you don't have time to bring resources in. You've got to be in there. So anyway, sorry, just my little pet peeve there going off on it. Pile 81, need bigger tugs with a pair of them old V12 cat engines in them. Those cat engines that Obama outlawed with the EPA changes. Listen, you need horsepower. There's no doubt about it. You need tractor tugs with big, huge horsepower. If you watch the video I just did on the Spirit of Norfolk, the bulker that was coming out of Norfolk that lost her engine, either steering or the plant went down. The Pile Lyra. When she lost her plant, there were two tugs that came in. The Z1, if you want to go look her up on there's a tug data page. You can pull her up. She's a bear of a tug. I mean, just a monster of a tug. And if you watch that video I just posted earlier today, you'll see that tug dig in there, full bore on her engines. You see the starboard rail almost tip under the water, and she is using all her force to push that bulker away from the Navy piers. Understand, that ship could have gone through that barrier and T-boned a U.S. Navy oiler right at the berth. Would have been disastrous. Would have been a disaster happening. But if not for the tugs going in there and doing that, they saved it. Just like the tugs right here today with the Maersk Surabaya were able to prevent this from happening. Bigger tugs, you can never go wrong with big tugs. To quote Tim Taylor from Home Improvement, power. You can always use power, or better yet, Top Gear. Always use more power. Let's see. Just tuned in from Australia. Hey, hello from Australia. Always happy to have people on board from down under. Always happy to have you join us on here. Sorry, I just lost it. I got a head here and everything jumped off here. Never ceases to amaze me how many ships run aground. CJ makes a good point. Ships run aground all the time. This is not an uncommon occurrence. But I did a video not too long ago where I talked about the fact that ships are safer now than ever before. We're losing less vessels than ever before, but there's still dangers. On What the Ship tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about a story where a ship in Sudan capsized, a sheep carrier. And while all the crew got off, about 12,000 sheep drowned on board the vessel. And, accidents still happen. And unfortunately, they tend to happen in places where there's not a lot of regulations. But as you see right here, Savannah, Georgia, they can take place right in front of our eyes. Going on, let's see. I'm going to jump over a few here. Kyle, aren't tugs private operators? If so, why would federal state government be involved in larger tugs? I think, Kyle, where you would do it is mandating the size of tugs, requiring ports, if you're going to accommodate vessels of this size, you need to contract with, have, certain horsepower tugs available at this time. Right now, basically, they're, ports contract with tugboats to have tugboats accommodate them, but there's no real requirement that spells out the horsepower and what's needed. Now, obviously, you're going to have sufficient horsepower to handle the vessels of your port, but in case of emergencies, are you going to invest that little bit of extra money in it? That's the question that I would raise. Let's see, keep going along here. The various ship watching face groups will have an interest in the event, especially those up along the Chesapeake Bay. Yeah, I think this is always of an interest knowing what's going on here. Keep going in. Was it the same pilot as Everfo or just transferred to Savannah? Believe it or not, pilots don't transfer that way. They're hired by the state and local areas. So that pilot on Everfo, who we don't know who it is yet, was a Chesapeake Bay pilot. So either probably a Maryland pilot out. So, pilots are a great way. I need to do an episode on pilots because the pilot gig is one of the best ones to get, but it's also one of the toughest ones to get. You've got to apprentice for a long time, make no money. It used to be a pretty racket in many places because the only ones who could afford to do it were like the kids of the pilots because they paid them terribly for a few years, and then you make great money. I think the pilots in the Port of Los Angeles are the highest paid employees in the state of California. Something like $400,000 a year they make. It's a crazy amount of money. Dave, I'm surprised Hampton Roads isn't up there in terms of size. It's growing. Port of Virginia is growing. And I'll say something else about the Port of Virginia. The Port of Virginia was the most efficient and effective port in that last evaluation, where LA and Long Beach were at the dead bottom. Long Beach was second to last. LA was last. Port of Virginia, I think, was number 28 on the list out of 370 ports. So really interesting about that. Let's see. Mona the Vampire, is the Surabaya fully loaded? She's fully loaded with containers based on the images I saw her. The question is how many of those containers are full versus empty. Based on her route, she's probably about 40% full, 60% empty. But there's a lot of containers, believe it or not, loaded that go back to Europe. So it may be more 50-50 at this point. Let's see. David, Hampton Roads is limited by draft due to tunnels. That's exactly true. Something that's been a big impediment for them. You can't get down, I think, to the full 50 feet because of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge there. Any idea why there's a backlog at Savannah and not one at Charleston? Well, Stan, they just cleared the one at Charleston. Charleston made basically promises they couldn't keep. And they also opened up a new terminal there, the Leatherman terminal, but they had issues with the union down there and they couldn't use it effectively. Excuse me. And so what they did was basically offer to bring more ships in, and they've been working nonstop to clear that backlog. They have a bit of a backlog off them right now, but nowhere near as much. But understand, one of the things that's been happening since the fall of last year, and if you've been following me that long, you know I started talking about this back in May of last year, the fact that you need to do your Christmas shopping early. But in like August, September last year, we talked about the huge backlog off LA and Long Beach. Well, when we were talking about that, shippers, those who are shipping cargo, began to make arrangements to bypass LA and Long Beach and ship cargo to the East Coast of the United States. So this ship right here, for example, Maersk Surabaya, some of the cargo it's picking up in those ports in Northern Europe isn't European cargo. A lot of that is actually Asian cargo that comes on the really big 24,000 box ships that run from Asia to Europe. They go into places like Felixstowe and Rotterdam, and then they shuffle those containers to these other ports to load to the United States. And then the other way they come is through the new lane of the Panama Canal. The new lane, which opened in 2016, the Neo-Panamax lane, can accommodate vessels up to 12,000 TEUs. So a ship like Everforward, for example, came from Asia, bypassed the West Coast, went through the Panama Canal, and then went to 4 ports on the East Coast of the United States, New York, New Jersey, Savannah, Baltimore, and Norfolk. And so that's why you see this kind of happening. Keep going here. Let's see. Where will she turn around? There's actually a turnaround basin right here. All right here up in this basin right here you're seeing right here. That's the turnaround basin right here. So they'll bring her in, and she's got a very thin margin, but they will spin her right in this basin right here. And there's some videos on it that's really great. A buddy of mine, Brian Boyle, he has a YouTube page. He works on Maersk Line ships, and so he has posted videos coming in and out of the port of Savannah. I actually did a video on that. I can link it over and put it in the show notes. Let's see, going on. Some funny answers in here. Sorry. There are a few companies developing a fully autonomous vehicle right now, but they're still a way away because they don't know what to do about pirates. Eric makes a point about autonomous vessels. There was just a ship, an autonomous South Korean, I think it was a tanker, made a crossing of the Pacific. It was fully crewed, but they did it under autonomous control. My feeling about autonomous is this. I don't think you'll ever see a true autonomous vessel doing transoceanic voyages because you're never going to be able to insure it. No one's going to insure a vessel that doesn't have a crew on board because a pinhole leak will result in the vessel sinking, let alone pirates or somebody coming on board. This is the one thing that the Navy has encountered with their autonomous vessels that's been a problem. They've been testing autonomy vessels all the time, and they work great, but the problem is you got to stay in communications with them. And to get an autonomous vessel off kilter, all you got to do is climb on board with a bat and hit the antenna, and you've severed communication. So autonomous vessels are tough, but we're seeing less and less crew on board, which is true. Let's see. Mod Pete, to be hacked would require a connection between nav control gear and the outside world. This does not exist. Yeah, exactly right. They're completely separated here. Let's see. Any update on the fuel reserve in Hawaii? So I did a video on the closing of the Red Hill facility, and one of the things they're doing is draining those tanks. And supposedly, IndoPACOM, the Unified Command out there, has put a plan together to disperse fuel out across the Pacific. I'm not sure about that, but they're also looking to get some commercial U.S. tankers out there and put some in. So anyway, let's plan on that. Weather in Georgia was weird today with storms going from east to west, opposite than usual, but the weather was more inland. Okay. Keep going. Let's see. Keep going. Sorry, I want to make sure I get all the questions here before we wrap up here. So I want to make sure I get everybody in here. Sorry, this thing jumps every now and then when about people pile in here. So I just want to make sure I got it here. Going on here. There we go. Sorry. Marisol, the press evergreen was getting, yeah, there's a lot of that going on. Doesn't Jax have some giving capacity if Savannah gets clogged up? Jacksonville just opened up Blunt Island. They finished a dredging operation, and they've got a container facility at Blount Island, but nowhere near the scope and scale of Savannah. Savannah handles, I can tell you right now, because I got the list in front of me because I'm working on a video on that. Savannah handled in 2021 about 5.6 million containers. Jacksonville handles under a million. So they're not anywhere up there, but they're close to it. They're close to a million. So that's going to be, you would disperse to those other ports. The problem is those other ports are at capacity. So really tough to do. Let's see, going on here. Sal, then what are you waiting for? Our government hands out money around the world like it's candy on Halloween. Why are we not making America first? Sorry, I sound like a New York businessman. I agree. I think we need to be investing in our infrastructure, and particularly in our port infrastructure and in American shipping firms. I apologize. I'm going to bash American when it comes to this. I believe in national shipping in some ways. Same like I believe that Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States, Great Britain, France, Italy, I don't care what nation it is. We saw countries like Egypt and Vietnam announce that they're doing more to create national shipping lines. Mad Pete, New Zealand's here. Well, no, Mad, thank you. Always good to have Kiwis in the house. And some more from Australia. Let's see. Does the shipping industry need more automation like aviation? Ben, I think one of the things that needs to be done is more vessel traffic control in some ways, where you can basically link in and do traffic control for vessels. There's a lot of oversight, but not control. And I think the issue here is going to be whether there was a weather issue, wind or current, or was there other factors at play? The thing that caused Ever Given to go sideways in the Suez Canal was wind. Should that vessel have been allowed to go into the canal if there were storms in the area? It's a good question, but it's one that needs to be addressed. Let's see. Al, good to have you. When it comes to fireboats and dredges, who's going to pay for them and their crews? The taxpayers are overburdened as it is. Al, I agree. I think one of the issues that we need to do is to shift some of that burden on the ocean carriers. Ocean carriers pay some taxes when they come in, but nowhere near the level of what they need to do. A lot of the elements and infrastructure that go into the ports are being paid by the income tax, by the taxes of the citizens of those states and those municipalities. The Port Authority paid $1.7 billion to raise the Bayonne Bridge. It did that by raising tolls, by bonds, by fees, by you name it. They had to raise the money to do it. And I got binged by somebody for saying that I said it was taxes to do it. Well, it's not directly taxes, but it's still Americans paying for that. But the ones who aren't paying for it are the commercial carriers. They build bigger ships, and we build the ports to accommodate them. Now, we either tell them, no, don't take your big ships and leave, or you want to bring them in, you have to pay some. And I think that's something that needs to be done. Let's see, NT, that's a great handle. I hear PMA and ILWU won't be done negotiation at least until September. Yeah, they have announced they're not going to come to an agreement by June. They said they're going to keep working, which is good, but it raises a lot of fear of what's going to happen there on the West Coast. It's one of the reasons why a lot of shippers are coming to the East Coast to ports like Savannah to basically offload. Let's see, moving along here. Ports charge ship owners, freight companies fees that should cover all infrastructure costs. Yeah, but not enough, I would argue, that does it right now. A lot of that is being funneled into other things. And, the problem you have is the ports are run by states and municipalities. Waters are run by the federal government. And where's that money going between the states and the federal government? Always a big issue when you say it. Keep going here. Man, Pete, watch a series called The Harbor about Aberdeen Harbor. They found all the jobs around the harbor available on YouTube. I will take a look at that. I have not heard of that. I assume that's down in Australia. Can you please recap who, what, when, where, and why? And we all know how won't be known for a year when the report comes out. Yeah, when NTSB finally releases the report on Everforward, I assume that's what you mean about this. on Never Forward and on this one, I will always go back and talk about it because I think it's really important to do that. Going over here, I want to make sure I cover it all. Let's see, Eric, want to add something? Can I just say that about pilots? If you're driving a ship, you're extremely familiar with why do you need pilots and the cost associated. Yeah, listen, I'm not underrating pilots. Let me be clear. I'd love to be a pilot, especially with that $400,000 salary at the Port of LA. Pilots provide you a unique expertise. And it's something I believe that we need to have, especially for the ships that are coming in at such a large size. We definitely need to have it. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here because I want to make sure I cover everything here. Just looking at the last of the questions here. Oh man, somebody from the hometown right here. West, thanks for having. That's the one from my hometown right here, chiming in. I apologize. I'm trying to get to the last of this. Let's see, Mike, with a good question. Do you foresee another supply chain rush from the ports finally opening up in Shanghai? Mike, I don't think you're going to see a flood coming out of that because a lot of people shifted their cargo out of Shanghai to the northern Chinese ports. So cargo's been moving pretty well since then. What I think you're going to see is a continual flow of cargo. And the problem you have is with inflation, with high fuel costs, people aren't buying as much, which means that between the ports and the warehouses, that's where you're going to see the backlog. Everything's going to pile up in the ports. They're going to pile up in the warehouses, and things aren't going to move very efficiently. And you actually may see shortages at that point because there's no room to move cargo anymore. And so that time priority stuff may not, we may have an issue where we're overloaded the warehouses, but we can't get everything out because it's so jammed or the containers are packed. And what you need to get in at a time-sensitive manner can't get in. Let's see. It's malicious code that can be introduced via laptop, USB drive, and then functions automatically. Stuxnet's old stuff. Well, if you've never heard about this, Maersk was hit by a virus in 2017. NotPetya. This is a result of the Ukraine-Russia war back then. They uploaded a virus, and it infected all their computers and their servers, took them out. The entire network was taken out except for one server in Lagos, Nigeria, which was down because of a blackout. And it took Maersk a week to rebuild their system. They were out. They were not moving cargo for weeks. They lost $300 billion worth of cargo or revenue, excuse me. And the only reason most people don't know about it is 2017, there's a lot of excess capacity in shipping. And so people move cargo on different ships. But today, such a attack would be deadly. It would be deadly, and it's something that we worry about in the shipping industry quite a bit. All right, I want to finish up here and wrap it up. So if you got any last questions here, just throw them in there at the end. I'll try to get to them. I apologize for jumping over things. Let's see. Trying to get to everything here and try to get a few different people in here. Yeah, if you can, just hit the like button too. And I apologize too. I'm using a new system here. I'm testing out StreamYard for my streaming service here, and I didn't set it up so that if you wanted to donate to the channel that you can do it. I apologize about that. So if you can, beyond the like, if you want to head over to the Patreon page, which is WGOW shipping. What's going on with shipping? Please do so. You can contribute to the page. If you go to one of my other videos, there are super thank buttons at the bottom there, and you can contribute to the page. I appreciate any contributions. I'm out of you guys got me out of working this summer teaching, so I can just do this and develop the channel more. So I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. I just want to add one little thing here. When you look at this map here, now that the Maersk Surabaya is pierside, I just want to show you something real quick on the map here. Notice who else is in here. So you've got a series of other container ships on your side right here. Bellavia, a Liberian container ship in there. Ever Steady, which is, again, I got to say something about Evergreen. Evergreen really needs to rethink their new strategy because their names of their ships are just doomed for problems in the future. Zim Hong Kong, Zim, the 10th largest container liner, very interesting company, Israeli-based company, open on the stock market, and one of the best performing stocks in shipping has been Zim, not the past week, because nothing's been performing well the past week, but typically pretty good. CMA, CGM, Panama right here. See her, man, she's a behemoth of a vessel right there. The Panama right up here, CMA, CGM, Mexico. And then all the way up here, this is China Spirit. She looks like a car carrier. No, excuse me, a bulk carrier coming in. I just wanted to show you that because, again, sometimes we don't take a look at how busy our ports are. And that was just a quick little snapshot right there. So you got a bulk carrier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 container ships at the dock. And then again, if you go off the berth right here, or off the port, I should say, you'll see right here off Charleston, or excuse me, this is off Savannah, the waiting line there for ships waiting to get in. Substantial line right there. And if you zoom out a little bit more here, from Savannah up here to Charleston, somebody mentioned Charleston before, not a huge line waiting off Charleston right now. The other reason that you see more ships in Savannah than Charleston, Savannah is easier to get in and out of for containers. Charleston is geographically not the easiest place to get containers out of. Savannah is. And so that developing. Zoom out a little more here, just a quick look at some of the other ports. Let's go up here to Norfolk, Virginia. Off Virginia Beach, you'll see some ships at anchor here off Virginia Beach. Not many. Waiting to get into the berths down here. What you will see is these huge anchorages here, just inside Cape Henry, and then up the Chesapeake Bay, just south of Annapolis. These are the bulk carriers waiting to get into the bulk facilities up in Baltimore and the LNG facility in Maryland, waiting to get in. And then look at the port off New York, New Jersey. That's the anchorages just south of Long Island right there, New York, New Jersey. A lot of tankers waiting to get in because of the fuel issue. You see them waiting to get in, and then container ships all the way out here, all waiting to get in. So anyway, I hope that gave you guys a little bit of information on this. Even though Maersk Surabaya did not ground for a long period of time, it did have the potential for causing a major problem. Fortunately, the tugs were able to pull her off, and she is now pierside in Savannah, beginning the process. I'll have an update on her later in the week, probably. I'll try to get something in on her on tomorrow's What the Ship, but in case I don't, I will definitely follow up and let you all know what's going on with it. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, again, please like. Always appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, share it across social media, leave a comment. I always appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone, over almost 300 people, tuning in tonight for an impromptu live talk about Maersk Surabaya going aground. Excuse me, been talking for a while. Going aground in the channel toward the port of Savannah. She grounded at about 6 p.m. this evening, between 6 and 7 p.m. Fortunately, there was enough tugs. It was high tide. They were able to yank her off. She just got her stern aground. They pulled her off, and now she is pierside at the terminal in Savannah. I'm going to offload. Again, I envision her not leaving immediately, probably going back out to the anchorage and being surveyed after touching bottom to make sure her prop and rudder is in good shape. That'll definitely be something with the Classification Society. So anyway, I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And again, if you like this too, do me a favor, get back on. Let me know if you like these impromptu things. Whenever there's a news story like this, I try to jump on and provide what information I can about it. All right, that's it. Thanks again for tuning in. Until our next episode, this is Sal and Macy sleeping behind me. So just so you know, I never do these reports alone. I'll give you a little bit of an insider since you guys are with me tonight. I never get to do these things alone, but usually, let's see if I get there. She is. That's what she does. She sleeps back there the entire time. 15-year-old blue tick hound. She just loves. She's like my students in my class. She just falls asleep the entire time and never listens to me. So anyway, thought you enjoyed just a little bit of a special thing there for you about Macy. And the Lego blocks are out because I'm doing a video on the top 30 container ports in the United States. So get ready for another Lego block video. All right, that's it. I will talk to you all soon. Bye.